They laughed at you. They dismissed your words, your presence, your value, like you were already beneath them. And you did what most people do. You explained, you defended, you begged to be understood. That is the exact moment you lost. Disrespect doesn't crush you. It recruits you into your own humiliation. But in minutes, you'll know the move that flips the power back instantly. Picture the scene. A room goes quiet after the insult lands. Everyone waits to see your reaction, to measure your status in that silence. Most fumble here. They try to argue, to fight, to prove. And in proving, they prove weakness. But you will not. Because once you learn the psychology behind authority, every attack becomes your stage. This is curiosity to wisdom. And if you're ready to stop defending and start commanding, hit subscribe now. Because what you're about to learn isn't motivation, it's weaponry. Cold, precise, psychological power. The real enemy was never the person who disrespected you. That individual is only a trigger, a mirror, a spark that exposes something far more dangerous. The hidden weakness living inside your own mind. The true adversary is not external, it is internal. It is the parasite buried deep within your psychology, the old reflex that whispers, explain yourself, justify, prove you are worthy of staying in the circle. That urge was not born out of logic nor strength, but out of fear. Long ago in primitive tribes, survival meant belonging. To be cast out was a death sentence. Rejection meant starvation, predators, annihilation. So the brain evolved to beg, to bend, to plead for validation. You defended yourself not because it was noble, but because it was necessary. But the age you live in now is no longer that world. No lions wait at the edge of the fire. No tribe gathers to vote on whether you eat tonight. You are not fighting for food. You are fighting for perception. And in this battlefield, perception is everything. Authority is the only currency that spends. Explanation, on the other hand, is bankruptcy. Every justification is a receipt that says, I am smaller than the one questioning me. Every excuse is an invisible contract that signs away your sovereignty. When you explain yourself, you declare silently but powerfully that another's opinion has more weight than your own declaration. You surrender your crown without them even asking for it. This is why the war is not with others, but with the self. It is not the one who insulted you who destroys your standing. It is the voice within that says, they must understand me, they must approve me, they must accept me. That part of you, the explainer, the justifier, the pleader, is the saboteur inside your gates, and it cannot be allowed to live any longer. From this moment forward, you make its burial your first act of power. You suffocate it with silence, you strangle it with indifference, you crush it beneath the weight of your own authority. That weakling inside you dies here tonight. Centuries ago, one mind grasped a principle that still shatters illusions today. When you are accused, never step into the posture of the accused. The instinct to argue, to counter, to plead your case. This is the posture of weakness. Power does not explain. Power does not bend under the weight of questions. Power does not walk into the courtroom of public opinion to beg for acquittal. Power declares. It speaks as the final word, not as a voice trembling to be understood. Those who once commanded empires, who bent nations to their will, knew this. They understood that words spent in self-defense are words that announce submission. Consider the old dynasties of ruthless reputation, the families who held entire kingdoms in their hands. They understood silence as a blade. When whispers and accusations rose against them, they did not waste breath on explanations. They allowed the accuser to burn in the fire of their own words. To explain would have been to descend to the level of the ordinary. To remain silent, to remain unmoved, was to elevate themselves beyond the reach of slander. The moment a ruler speaks to justify, he is already repositioned, not as sovereign, but as subject. He becomes the one who must answer, rather than the one who commands. This is the cold truth history teaches without mercy. Defense is not strength, it is surrender dressed in logic. It is not the act of the lion, but of the cornered prey who bares its teeth because it has nothing else left. And once you defend, you confirm the accusation as valid enough to respond to. The room no longer sees you as untouchable. They see you as shaken. The crowd, whether in palaces or boardrooms, does not admire the defender. They admire the one who does not flinch, who does not stoop, who does not even acknowledge the need to prove. This is the timeless law, carved deeper than the stones of history. Authority is ever proven. It is imposed. It is not earned by begging recognition, but enforced by silent weight. The throne does not explain itself to the subjects. It exists, and by existing, it commands. The first tactic is the Velvet Dagger, a method that feels almost paradoxical in its elegance. Its genius lies in the union of softness and severity, in the ability to disarm without raising your voice, to wound without appearing violent. The principle is deceptively simple: soft voice, sharp strike. Authority does not need theatrics. True command is not displayed through shouting, chest-beating, or endless rebuttals. It is revealed in the calmness of one who knows they cannot be toppled. When you wield the Velvet Dagger, you strip away the spectacle of defense and replace it with something far more unnerving: controlled silence punctuated by precision. Picture this moment: a crowded meeting, the hum of voices, the watchful eyes of peers. Then the strike comes, not from you, but from another. A mocking jab, a sarcastic comment, a challenge to your position. The average person reacts with panic. They lean forward, their pulse quickens, and they scramble to explain, to restore their reputation. But explanation is weakness, and weakness is blood in the water. Instead, you choose differently. You do not rise to the bait. You pause. You lean back deliberately, as though unshaken. The silence stretches, and it is in that silence that the attacker begins to feel their own weight. Then, with a tone calm enough to slice through the noise like glass through flesh, you deliver it. That's incorrect. Nothing more. No elaboration. No frantic detail. Just the blade, wrapped in velvet. What happens next is psychological, not verbal. The room feels the imbalance. The attacker expected a duel, a back-and-forth exchange where both sides struggle for dominance. What they received instead was a guillotine drop in a single sentence. The silence after your words becomes the weapon. It echoes louder than any defense ever could. Restraint transforms into intimidation. Your composure creates unease because it projects that you are so certain of your position that argument is beneath you. The Velvet Dagger teaches this: the deadliest strikes are not delivered with volume or chaos, but with control. And when your enemies realize you will not play their game, the battlefield tilts permanently in your favor. The second tactic is the cold frame, a weapon of atmosphere rather than argument. If the Velvet Dagger is a strike, the cold frame is an enclosure. The principle is clear. You do not chase their energy, you create your own gravity, and you make them orbit around it. Most people, when interrupted, fall into the trap of scrambling. They raise their volume, speed up their words, attempt to claw back attention. But the one who commands understands this. The room does not follow noise. The room follows presence. And presence is built through deliberate stillness. Imagine it. A peer cuts you off mid-sentence, their words sharp and careless, an attempt to steal the floor. The ordinary response would be frustration, maybe even panic, a rush to finish your point before it slips away. But you, under the cold frame, do the opposite. You slow down, not out of hesitation, but out of command. Your movements become deliberate, your breathing deep, your posture anchored. You turn your head, not with the twitch of someone offended, but with the composure of someone unshakable. Your eyes lock, steady and unblinking. Then the voice, lower, quieter, carrying the weight of an iron verdict. Are you finished? In that instant, the room changes. The conflict ceases to be a clash of equals. It becomes a performance, and you are not a participant. You are the judge. The one who interrupted now feels as though the spotlight has turned on them. Every eye shifts. They are no longer in control of the interruption. They are on trial, framed by your stillness. The silence you allow to stretch after your words becomes the cage that holds them. Silence, when wielded correctly, is not emptiness. It is iron bars around the stage. The cold frame has execution rules. Step 1. Reduce tempo. Slow down to show that you are immune to their disruption. Step 2. Increase stillness. Every unnecessary movement is a facile leak of authority. Step 3. Let silence do the bleeding. Resist the urge to add words, because each word spent in defense is a coin spent in bankruptcy. The warning is absolute. Never overtalk. Explanation corrodes the frame. The signal of mastery is unmistakable. The room breathes slower, and the one who tried to cut you down now scrambles to escape the prison you built with nothing but silence and gaze. If this feels different, it's because it is. Most channels feed you motivation. I arm you with psychological weapons. Subscribe to Curiosity to Wisdom right now, so you never walk into a room defenseless again, because what follows will shift how you see rejection itself. The third tactic is withdraw return, a maneuver as psychological as it is strategic. Its foundation rests on a truth often forgotten in the scramble for recognition. Presence is not always power. Sometimes it is the lack of presence that shakes the ground more violently than any word or action. The principle is simple yet devastating. Make absence louder than presence. When someone dismisses you, mocks you, or seeks to strip you of influence, the instinct of the untrained mind is to fight harder for space, to insist, to repeat, to demand attention. But that is the behavior of the needy, and neediness bleeds authority. Instead, you vanish. Withdrawal is not weakness. It is the opposite. It is the decision to let the vacuum do the speaking. The silence of your absence grows heavier by the hour, and what was once dismissal begins to feel like loss. When you withhold your gaze, your voice, your presence, you force others to confront the weight of what they tried to discard. People rarely notice value until it is gone, and by stepping away deliberately, you weaponize this blindness. The key is in the return. Hours later, or even days, you re-enter. Not frantic, not apologetic, but colder, sharper, untouchable. Your reappearance reframes the narrative. You were never rejected. You were repositioned. The room must now view you not as the one who was pushed aside, but as the one who chose to step away on their own terms. Execution requires discipline. Do not reply immediately when dismissed. Do not explain why you are stepping back. Do not chase validation from the same source that denied it. Each act of silence and distance is a blade carving authority into the situation. Yet beware, a blade wielded too long becomes a coffin. Withdraw, but not endlessly. If absence turns into disappearance, your silence decays into irrelevance. The precision lies in balance, long enough to she, if the power dynamic, short enough to remain a presence in their mind. The signal of success is unmistakable. They begin to seek you out. The one who dismissed you now leans forward, testing your return, craving your acknowledgement. Without a single word of defense, the balance has inverted. Authority has been restored, not by shouting, but by silence stretched into absence and sharpened into presence once again. Here is the protocol, a sequence of moves that transforms rejection into raw leverage. Step 1. Don't react. The impulse to fire back, to protest, to defend is the snare. When struck by words or exclusion, most people collapse into reflex. They explain, they argue, they justify, and in doing so, they hand over their crown. You will not. Your first weapon is silence. Silence is not emptiness. It is armor. It denies them proof of their impact. When you do not react, you deny your opponent their victory because their attack finds no target. Your calm becomes the wall they cannot scale. Step 2. Withdraw presence. Remove yourself from the stage, not in weakness, but in cold control. This is starvation as strategy. The world is addicted to signals, attention, words, energy. When you withhold yours, they feel the vacuum. The dismissal they thought was final transforms into hunger, because suddenly you are no longer available to be measured, mocked, or dismissed. They are left with silence, and silence grows heavier the longer it lingers. Step 3. Rewrite the story. Rejection only stings when you accept its frame, but power rewrites frames. You were not excluded. You became scarce. You were not dismissed. You stepped beyond reach. Scarcity always elevates value. Diamonds are just rocks until the earth makes them rare. By stepping back deliberately, you make your presence rarer than before. What once looked like rejection now feels like loss, and loss cuts deeper than insult. Step 4. Return as gravity. When you reappear, you do not crawl back. You enter as though you were never shaken. Your presence now carries the weight of scarcity, and that weight bends the room around you. They do not see you as the rejected. They see you as the resource too rare to ignore. By returning colder, sharper, untouchable, you force recognition without asking for it. Understand this final principle. Rejection is not destruction. It is intel. It reveals where you are underestimated, where your absence bites the hardest. And once you master this frame, no insult can pierce you. They can swing at you with all the force they have, but every strike lands on air. You remain untouched because you no longer fight on their ground. You make them fight on yours. Here is your cold arsenal, not a list of tricks, but a set of weapons forged for the battlefield of perception. Every element is designed to strip away weakness and sharpen authority. Begin with the voice. Lower your pitch. Authority is carried in depth, not in shrillness. The higher the tone, the more the words feel like pleading. A lower register communicates certainty, weight, inevitability. Then, slow your tempo. Do not rush, as if racing to prove a point. The slower you speak, the more control you project. Slowness suggests that your words are carved from stone, not spilled in desperation. Each syllable lands heavier because it is rare. Next, strip your words to the bone. Brevity is a weapon. Over-explaining dissolves power because every extra word is a leak of status. Precision, on the other hand, is intimidation. Say less, but let it cut deeper. After each statement, pause. Do not rush into the next thought. The stillness after speech makes the sentence expand in the minds of others. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is weight. A pause after words is like the echo of a hammer in a quiet hall. It lingers. It unsettles. It forces reflection. Execution must be ruthless. Do not explain. Do not decorate. When someone is wrong, do not deliver a monologue. Deliver a verdict, a single word. Incorrect. Then stop. Move on. The silence that follows is the true blade. The brevity of your strike makes the wound deeper. Now, the toggles, your behavioral switches for social combat. When dismissed, vanish. Do not argue for your place. Absence will speak louder than any protest. When challenged, confront with brevity. The longer you wrestle, the more you dignify the challenger. Cut with one sentence and retreat into stillness. When disrespected, redirect. A single word. Noted. Then close the scene. No emotional leakage, no wasted defense. The interaction ends on your terms, not theirs. Understand this law. Authority is never built on noise. Noise is for those clawing for recognition. True authority rests on gravity, and gravity requires no announcement. It bends the room without sound, without spectacle. Gravity is silent, and yet it moves worlds. That is the essence of power. This is the moment where transformation ceases to be a practice and becomes identity. No longer are you the one who explains, defends, or bends. That version of you is dead, buried beneath the silence you have chosen. What rises now is something altogether different, an archetype, not a participant. You are no longer merely a person in the room. You are the one who cannot be touched, the one whose very stillness alters the rhythm of others. Your silence is no longer absence. It has teeth. It cuts deeper than words ever could. A pause in your presence is heavier than a speech from another. Your gaze alone begins to rewrite hierarchy. In a world where most eyes dart nervously, yours remains steady, unflinching, cold. To look directly without flinching is to declare without speaking, I cannot be moved. That gaze installs doubt in others while anchoring certainty in yourself. And when you do choose to speak, your words carry the weight of scarcity. They are not scattered like coins in the marketplace. They are rare, like iron dropped in a sea of chatter. Every syllable forces silence to form around it. People replay your words because they are too infrequent to be ignored. This is the stage of myth-making. You are no longer evaluated as an equal player in the noise of human exchange. You begin to stand outside of it, reframed in their minds as something colder, inevitable, untouchable. You move slower, and yet the room slows to your rhythm. You speak less, and yet your silence speaks more than their arguments. The chatter of the many fades into static when set against your stillness. This is the identity shift, from reactive to unreachable, from explaining to commanding, from pleading to declaring. You are no longer perceived as one of many. You are remembered as the one who cannot be shaken, cannot be reduced, cannot be moved. And when people speak of you, they do not describe your arguments. They recall your presence. In that shift, you stop being a man in the room and begin becoming myth. And myths do not defend themselves. They are remembered, feared, and followed. This is your threshold, the line in the sand where the old self dissolves and the new self is forged. Once you step across, there is no return. You do not drift back into the posture of explaining, of pleading, of justifying. That part of you, the explainer, the one who scrambled to be understood, dies here. You bury it tonight, and in its grave, something harder rises, something colder, something untouchable. This threshold is not an invitation. It is a crossing. The moment you pass it, you do not argue for your value anymore. You embody it. If you are ready to silence the voice inside that begs for validation, declare it. Like this video as a marker that you are ready to bury the explainer inside you forever. But do not stop there. Subscribe, not as a casual click, but as a commitment. A commitment to the one thing no enemy, no rival, no accuser can move. An identity that does not negotiate. A self that does not shrink into explanation or chase for approval. To subscribe here is to step into a discipline, a doctrine of authority that outlasts insults, dismissals, or rejection. Understand this truth. Authority is not spoken into existence. It cannot be proven through words, explanations, or long defenses. It is not won by convincing others to see it. Authority is felt. It radiates like gravity, silent, invisible, undeniable, and like gravity, it bends the room around it without making a sound. You do not explain gravity. You experience it. And once you cross this threshold, that is what you become. Carry this truth with you forever. They cannot reject what they cannot reach. Once you stand above explanation, you remove yourself from their grasp. Insults slide off you because you will not bend to meet them. Accusations dissolve because you refuse to dignify them with defense. From this moment forward, you are no longer seen as the one who can be dismissed. You are seen as the one who does not move. Step across, bury the explainer, command without words, and let the silence you carry break louder than any defense ever could.